You know the vibes. Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Genius podcast brought to you by NBA 2K23. Myself, the one and only Mo Mootsie, alongside, as always, Mr. BJ Armstrong.
Real name. No gimmicks. No gimmicks. No gimmicks, Mo. It's that time of the year, Mo.
Should I tell you what was a damn gimmick? Should I tell you what was a damn gimmick, BJ?
Yes.
The other night we recorded. The other night we recorded before the March Madness final, right, of the men's tournament. And then we finished recording so we could go watch the game. I opened my iPad to watch, because that's what I watch the college games on, because I don't have it on TV over here. I click on the ESPN app, where I watched all of March Madness this year, okay? And guess what it tells me?
I have no idea.
Your subscription has ended. Please renew for a whole... It ended at midnight before the tip-off. What are the chances? What are the chances? So I didn't watch the game.
So you didn't renew?
No. Why am I going to renew for a whole year to watch one game? So I don't watch anything else on it. Next year, when March Madness comes, I'm just going to buy a month-long pass. I don't know. ESPN, shout us, sponsor the show. Get us on your app. Let's do something. But I didn't renew for a year, unfortunately. Speaking of renewing, though, which is why I wanted to bring up a nice segue. You know how I do, the host for the most. Jaylen Brown. There's been a lot of talk about him renewing his contract with the Celtics. There we have it.
Oh, that makes you happy.
The segue king is back.
Yes.
Well, the talk, it shouldn't really be a conversation, because I know already. I feel like we've done enough episodes. I know what your answer is going to be, because I'm going to ask you this, and you're going to say, well, why would he leave for 80% when he could stay for 120% and 140%?
100%. Right.
But I wanted to ask you this from a different angle.
Okay, go ahead.
Because a lot of people talk about this superstar duo. Yeah, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum. Now, when a lot of people think about duos in the NBA, they think of a smaller guard and a big guy, Kobe and Shaq. You know, D-Wade and Shaq, Steve Nash and Amari Stoudemire, Stockton and Malone, right? It's not often that we get a lot of duos that are both at the wing position. I wanted to ask you, because you spent a number of years with a certain duo who were at the shooting guard and small forward position. So I wanted to get some insight from you, because everyone had this talk that these guys, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, can't play together. We need to break them up. And then all of a sudden they get to the finals, and now they're saying, okay, we've got to break them up because Jaylen Brown wants to be the number one guy and X, Y, Z. I wanted to get your perspective on the dynamic of having two all NBA caliber players that are playing on the same team alongside each other in a very similar position. Not that none of the guys you played with played the same role. You know, obviously one was more of a facilitator, then one was more of a scorer. But having those two guys, how you saw they managed to balance, you know, kind of, because we saw when Michael went to play baseball, Scottie stepped up and let you guys, you were the second seed, right? Took you to the playoffs. He was maybe the best player in the NBA also. Maybe. So I wanted to know from your perspective, how these guys, because obviously we're not inside the Celtics locker room. So I want to take you back to your locker room and how they managed to balance, you know, having two stars on the team, both on the wing positions.
Well, when you're constructing a team, right, you want to be able to complement that team's best player in every way possible to help that player maximize who they're going to be and what they're going to contribute to the game, right? So in the case of those two guys, Jordan and Pippen, you know, we always tend, as fans and people in the media, we look at the offense. We go, well, you know, how can he play with this guy? But when you're constructing a team, and if you want to win, you have to do three things. You have to defend, you have to rebound, and then you have to pass the ball. And you want to allow your best player to be able to maximize their potential in all three areas, because you need those three things to win. That's the core of any good team. And in the case of those two, Jordan was a phenomenal defensive player. I mean, he wasn't good. He was phenomenal. Okay. No one really talks about that, but truly he was the best defensive
player of the year.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
saying? So now when you have a guy where the core of who Jordan really was as a player was he was a defensive player first and foremost, who just happened to be able to score like that. But who he really was a defensive, like, he was almost like a juggernaut. He was really like, because he could influence the game.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And then the reason that those two were so good together is because they complemented one another without the basketball. Now, when you complement your best player with other players who also play to their strength, which is defense, right? Then you put Rodman next to him. You put these guys, Horace Grant. When you put these type of players around your best player to help him and to complement them, right? Suddenly now you have a team, because the scoring is the last part, is the last piece of the puzzle, because they can defend, they can rebound, right? Both of them were incredible rebounders at their position. Mm-hmm. Then you add Rodman and Horace Grant and Bill Cartwright and these guys, you put those guys around them. And then all of a sudden you start putting passers around them, right? You put the John Paxsons, and Pippen could pass, Steve Kerr, Tony
PJ Armstrong.
Yeah, you put these guys around them, and suddenly now you have a team that can compete consistently every night without even shooting the ball. Now, if they shoot the ball and they score the ball, now you got a real problem. That's probably why they won as many championships as they did, was because they didn't need to score. So now when I look at Jayson Tatum and I look at Jaylen Brown, I go, both of them, as good as they are on the offensive end, which both of them are phenomenal, mm-hmm. when they really want to, they can both be lockdown defenders.
Yes.
Because if they're lockdown defenders, now you're cooking in the kitchen, mm-hmm. because they already have a defensive player of the year on their team. They already have another guy, Al Horford, who is as good or as solid as a big in the league. And then you have another guy who's probably a all first team defensive player in Rob Williams. Okay. And then go ahead.
Derek White, this never gets talked about. Derek White on the defensive side of the basketball this season has been absolutely phenomenal as well. They've not missed a beat when Smart and Brown check out the game, because Brogdon and Derek White check in, and they have been phenomenal in their role defense.
Brogdon, the other kid, Williams, what's his name?
Grant Williams.
Not Rob Williams, the other
Grant
kid.
Grant Williams takes on the assignment.
Okay. Yeah. So now when you compliment that, so in my opinion, Jaylen Brown, when he first came in the league, I thought he was like a defensive player first and foremost.
Yeah.
Now he's turned into a really good offensive player. But I think if those two win those two, I think those guys have a chance to win a championship. Clearly, they could have won it a year ago. When they both commit to being lockdown defenders, all the other things we're talking about, offensively and all those things, fighting over the ball, because it's hard to score when you're constantly taking the ball out of the basket. They have 5 guys, okay, on their starting lineup when you put Rob Williams in that lineup, where they don't have to double team anyone. Mm-hmm. And that gives them a significant advantage. And because of Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum's size at their position, and you know how important that is for me when you're putting together the team, where you have size and length. Jaylen Brown is a big kid. Jayson Tatum has length. Jayson Tatum is every bit of 6'10". I'm convinced now he's 6'10" and above the way he plays. Because he's shooting over the top of people where he shouldn't be able to if he was only 6'7" or 6'8". So he has to be 6'10" or so, 6'9" at the very least.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about something special. I think they understand that. I think in a 48-minute game, they probably do it for about 30 or 35 minutes. Mm-hmm. But I think when they're really locked in and they start doing it to the degree of saying, we're going to be defensive players first and offensive players second, then I think you're talking about something that's really special. They're really good. Jayson Tatum has improved as much as I've seen as a star player in a long time on the defensive end. He's a really good defensive player now. And that's just effort and energy.
It's interesting to me because when Jaylen Brown came into the league, we expected him to be a great defender and maybe he'll give you 10, 15, maybe even some nights 20.
Yes.
Jayson Tatum, he came into the league. We all knew he could score the basketball, but was he going to guard? And each of them have elevated what was the perceived weakness in their game to now having all NBA talent, because I believe Jaylen Brown should be an all NBA player this season on the offensive side of the basketball, and defensively, you can switch these guys around on defense. The reason why the Celtics are so tough on defense is you got Smart. All right, cool. Set screen. Jaylen Brown's going to switch onto the guy. Okay, cool. Set screen. Jayson Tatum's going to switch onto the guy. Al Horford can hold his own. Rob Williams is there on the weak side to block the shot. So they've really elevated that. But from a lot of talk about Jaylen Brown, they're saying that he wants to have his own team. He wants to be the guy. How do you manage, I don't want to say egos, but how do you manage that sharing of being, okay, you go ahead and be the guy, I'll be the second guy.
Well, this is how you manage it. This is how you manage it. First of all, when you're putting together a team, the most important guy is always the second guy. Because 9 times out of 10, the second guy wants to be the first guy. If the second guy, who's ever, when you put together a team, if the second guy wants to be the first guy, you're probably going to have a problem on your team.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you solve these problems? Winning cures all. You win, everyone buys in. You lose, okay? You lose, okay? The second guy is going to want to say, well, if they would have gave it to me, we probably would have won the game. Whether that's true or not, hey, that's what the second guy, that's what
there have been
games
believe. This season
and I'm not saying who's the second guy, but what I do know is Jayson Tatum is clearly the first option on the offense.
Well, there have been games this season, what I was saying is, where Jayson Tatum's been cold, Jaylen Brown's been on fire, he's had 35, whatever. And the final possession of the game, in a close game, they still give the ball to Jayson Tatum. Do you see that being a problem?
I listen, again, if you're going to be the first guy, be the first guy. Good, bad, or indifferent. You can't shy away from your first guy. This isn't high school or college or amateur sports. Your first guy is your first guy. So you know what? All right. In the case of, Jordan or Kobe or these guys, if you're going to be the first guy, be the first guy. All right. Jordan misses 10 shots in a row. What are you going to do? Go away from the guy? That's not how this works. Okay. If he's going to be your first guy, be your first guy. Now, because the last thing you want to do is have guys start losing confidence. Okay. So I'm not into whatever, because in the end, coaches, coaches want to all win. Okay. Coaches want to win. And you have to know that in an 82 game schedule, sometimes your best guy is not going to have it. Okay. I was in a situation some years ago and it got a lot of publicity. Scottie Pippen was clearly, like you said, that year, he might have been the best player in the league. Phil elected to use him as a decoy, and Tony Kukoc hit the game-winning shot to win. Yeah. And there was a lot of chit-chatter about that, right? It was a lot of chit-chatter about that. Now,
yep, there was a whole documentary made which had an episode about that.
Okay, so let's talk it through. Our best player, he was clearly our best. There's no doubt. It's not like, who was your best player? Who had it going? Who didn't? We were a 50-win team. Clearly, because we had a good team, but our best player was Scottie Pippen.
Mm-hmm.
Phil had a feel for who he thought could get the shot based on how he thought the other team was going to cover them in the play. He elected to use Scottie in a way that he was going to be the decoy, and then that was going to give Tony Kukoc an opportunity to shoot the last shot. Now, to complicate it, it worked. He hit the shot. We win the game. Now, you got a feel for it, and when you're coaching, and sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. If he misses that shot, Phil has to answer the question, why did you go away from Scottie?
Yeah.
In the situation, he makes it. Now it looks like Phil might have had the right play for whatever the reasons were. I don't know. Never talked to him about it. I'm just using, as example.
Yeah.
So in the end, if you want success in a locker room, you got to win. That's the bottom line. Mr. Russell Bill Russell said it best. Professional sports is not about playing the game. Professional sports is about winning the game. You get paid to win the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all of the other stuff you're talking about, who's number one, whose team is it? Truthfully speaking, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what player or players are going to help you win the final game of the season. And I haven't seen a player yet walk away from that. Mm-hmm. Okay. I haven't seen a player walk away from that one. You're winning, but when you lose, now all of a sudden, you become susceptible to different things, you know. And it's nothing wrong with wanting to be the first guy, okay? But there also is an opportunity when you have a guy that's capable of scoring like Jaylen Brown. There's a delicate balance. I don't know the right balance. I don't know that. Like, if I knew that, I would be doing it. I don't know it. Okay. But what I do know, Mo, is winning cures all. What I do know, Mo, is your intentions. And when your intentions have to match up to what you're saying. And the best that I think you can do if you were in that position is to do everything with the intention to win the game. And then you let the chips fall where they may. Because, Mo, only one guy can shoot it at the end anyway. And Jayson Tatum is too good of a player. He's too good of a player on the offensive end. Jaylen Brown is clearly, you can argue he's the same. I mean, both of those guys. You know what I mean? So I don't know. But what I do know, if they both win, and they're both utilized in the way that they think they should be used, whatever that is, then you should be fine. And that's a delicate balance in that. But if they win a championship this year, you'll be okay, Mo.
Yeah. Do you have a feeling if Jaylen Brown is going to leave or not? Just a wild prediction.
What I think is this. Listen. I think every player at some point in their career wants to explore and experience free agency. Mm-hmm. I think every player wants to do that. You know, it's like
the quote that got everyone talking was him saying, "Great players don't always finish on the same team." Even Michael Jordan finished on the Wizards.
Listen. It's very rare do you have, look, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was traded, LeBron James moved, Michael Jordan moved. I mean, Mo, that's the way it is. This is professional sports, for crying out loud. Mm-hmm. Every player, right? Every player moves. That's why when players get drafted, I always go, okay, that's probably not the team you're going to end up with, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so players get drafted, they go, oh, like, I'm going to stay there for my whole career. No, I'd say, okay, 3-4 years max. If you're a good player, you'll play with the team. Maybe longer if you're a great player, but at some point you will explore that. Allen Iverson gets traded. Every player, Carmelo,
Kevin Garnett.
You can go on and on. Everybody moves. Okay, so in the end, this is nothing new. I think what is new is the following: you have a window, and Jaylen Brown, right?
Yep.
He's earned that right now. I mean, this guy shows up to the game. You know, as we say in Detroit, he shows up to the run every night. Mm-hmm. He competes every night. And you know what? Let's see what's out there. Right? Let's see what's out there. And then if he determines that, you know, Boston, say, for instance, is the best place, then so be it. But if you win, Mo, and then he leaves, then you're looking around like, okay, what's going on here?
yeah, that would be crazy.
You follow what I'm saying?
I think we've only ever seen that with Kawhi Leonard. So
yeah, so you know, I just think, you know, that's a good call, Mo, and that's what made Kawhi's situation. You know, it was kind of like, you know, you didn't question it, because I think it was a unique set of circumstances that brought him there. Being on the last year of a deal. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think players all want to experience free agency. I think everyone wants to experience it. You know, I really do. And then and you see it, Shaq moved, everybody moved. So that's nothing new.
Okay. One thing that made me laugh recently was the interview with Jaylen Brown, because he used to have this thing in his game that Celtics fans used to go crazy about. Is he'd just put his head down and dribble and end up turning the ball over. And someone asked him, "Why did you used to do that?" And he said, "Well, you guys would be on the bench shouting at me to slow down, and I know the defenders are hearing you tell me to slow down, so I would speed up to confuse them and throw them off." And that really made me laugh, because Celtics fans have spent years wondering, why does this guy just keep putting his head down and try to dribble to the hoop? And the whole time he's trying to trick the defenders. That was really funny to me. But let me ask you this, BJ. We spoke about just earlier on the show, Jaylen Brown surprising everyone with how his offense has come along, and Jayson Tatum surprising everyone with how his defense has come along. Which players in the league right now are the biggest surprises to you from when they got drafted to how they are now? And we'll exclude the international players of Jokic and Giannis, who people might not have seen, but who's come in from college and has really, you really looked at this guy now in the NBA and thought, wow, I didn't think he was going to be this good. No one thought he was going to be this good.
Well, every time I look at Steph Curry, I say that.
Yeah. I see with Draymond too.
I never, people can say it now, but listen, the thing that I respect most about Steph Curry's game was how he has transformed his body to be able to play through contact.
Yeah.
He can absorb the punishment to be a number one option, because when he came into the league, it wasn't like he was the biggest, strongest, fastest point guard, the quickest, but he didn't allow that to get in the way so that he could reach his full potential. That's what I love about. Now, when you watch him play now, he will take the hit now and play through it and finish. And that to me is like, that's that's a great thing. I also, players like Chris Middleton.
Yep.
Chris Middleton was like a second round pick.
Yeah. Went to
I had no idea he was going to
Detroit.
I had no idea he was going to be. I mean, he always had size. Okay. He had size, but I didn't think he could play like the way he's playing. And now he plays off the dribble a little bit. Now he he uses his size in the posts, mid-range, 3-point line. I can tell you another player that I didn't think, and I'm beginning to watch him utilize the dribble, is the kid Bane.
Desmond Bane. Yeah.
I know he can shoot a little bit.
Yeah. For me, I said Draymond, the reason being I thought Draymond would be good, but I thought he'd just be a good glue guy, just a good guy to have in a squad, a Jay Crowder kind of guy. Didn't realize he'd be so many times defensive player of the year and be able to dynasty. But the player now, in my mind, is Jalen Brunson. I looked at Jalen Brunson. I said, cool. You can be a nice backup point guard, come in and give us 10 points off the bench, whatever. And now this guy's gone to New York, and he's the star of the New York Knicks.
Yeah, Brunson, players like that, you just have to get them in the right scenario, in the right situation, because of the following. You hear me say this, Mo, big, strong, tough athlete. Okay. When I say big, now I'm not just talking about length. He's a bigger guard. Like when you look at the side, yes, he has girth. Okay. Now, when you have a player like a Barkley, those guys, like they can play through people. Like for instance, Zion is when you say big, you don't think of how tall Zion is. He's just big enough to bump you off. Julius Randle, he bumps you off. He can bump you. He can play through you. Jalen Brunson can play through you. I mean, if you watch him play, Mo, he just bumps the one. You got to guard him with someone's tall, because he'll bump you. He'll bump right off.
He'll get you into the paint, bump you. He'll plant his pivot foot, bump you off, spin, fade away.
Okay, now
or fake the fade away and step through.
Always remember this, Mo, in your quest to be a GM.
Yes, sir.
Left-handed players are really good in traffic because
unorthodox.
We're used to playing against right-hand players. So you're always taught, bigs are taught to block the shot with their left hand. Suddenly, when Jalen Brunson comes, he's coming with his left hand, so he's able to slither around you. That's why Kyrie is so amazing in traffic, because he can play with his left hand.
Yeah.
Okay? Always remember that. So he can bump you off, and he's left-handed. Advantage for him. Now, the thing that really makes him good, which we can't measure, right? And probably why we all missed him, except the people in Villanova, at the University of Villanova, is his toughness. You can't measure a man's heart. Now, that kid now he's not a little tough. He's incredibly tough, okay? Now, it's one thing that you got to know about Villanova players that played for Coach Jay Wright down there.
Mikal Bridges. Yep.
Okay. Jason Hart.
Josh Hart, yeah.
Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson, okay?
Kyle Lowry went to Villanova?
Kyle Lowry, there you go.
DiVincenzo.
Yeah, all of these guys have the same quality that come through there, okay? So if you mentioned Kyle Lowry. None of us thought Kyle Lowry was going to be a 6-time or 7-time
player. He's another
all-star player,
champion.
Because you can't measure the toughness, the mental toughness that someone's had. You can't measure his heart. You can't measure the person's mind. You can't measure those things. You have to see those things. But what we do know, Mo, is that consistently from that university under Coach Jay Wright, that you're going to get a tough player. Okay. Mikal Bridges going over there to Brooklyn now and averaging 25 or 30 points a game, whatever he's doing right now. You go, well, what happened? Why couldn't he do that in Phoenix? Because he's a winning player, and winning players do what they got to do.
Yeah.
Right.
They didn't need him to do that. They got Devin Booker.
There you go. When he was there, he was a defensive player. And then all of a sudden he goes there and he's player of the week, averaging 33 points a game. So, we should have saw Jalen Brunson though.
Yeah.
Because we should have saw us in the business. We knew Jalen Brunson was going to be good. Did I know he was going to be
this
25 a night or whatever?
Yeah.
He's good. Hey, I didn't think he was ever going to have an opportunity to
be
in a
exactly.
situation.
There's so many good point guards in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? But when you watch him and when you watch what he has done, it's not a coincidence that he won in college. It should not be a coincidence that he won every time he's been in the pros, and he's good enough to figure it out. I mean, this guy, Mo, think about it. He won a playoff game in the playoffs on the road last year, minus Luka Doncic. So, Mo, why are we surprised?
I think another player that we have to say is Kawhi Leonard, because I expected him to just be like Tony Allen, and the way he's evolved his offense has been amazing to watch. From players of this year's draft, the player that stands out to me is the player that you were most excited for before the draft, and a player I actually wrote a column about recently, Jalen Duren. And you told me how great he was going to be. I wrote a column, I think last month or the month before, about how I think he's the next Dwight Howard. Shout out to Paul George, he must have been reading, because he did his podcast recently and said Jalen Duren is a mini Dwight Howard. I think he's going to be the player that by the end of his career, people turn around and be like, why wasn't this guy picked higher up in the draft?
Well, again, Mo, like, listen, when you're drafting these kids this young,
youngest player in the NBA.
When you're drafting these kids this young, it's impossible to see. Mo, when I tell you impossible, it's impossible, right? You're going to make a career decision based on 25 games in college where he's not going to play against, maybe he'll play against 4 or 5 pros. And one of the pros he plays against is Chet Holmgren. And you're going, physically, you can't see him playing against Chet Holmgren versus Bam Adebayo. You can't see it. So now, Mo, you have to you're just going on instinct. Now, tell me what guy you thought is going to be this physical and able to play through contact at 18 years of age. Raise your hand. Raise your hand if you're a scout that has a formula to evaluate that.
Well, you did.
Well, I've also been wrong too.
I'm not going to tell the people what you said to me before the draft, but you did.
Yeah, listen, you know, sometimes you'll see something and you just go with your gut. Now, I've been wrong too, Mo. So I would love to tell you that I'm right.
Everyone has.
Yeah. But when I saw this kid, I just went like, wow. I was like, wow. Like, this kid is 18. I was like, how's he 18? How's he 18 playing like that? Like, he does things naturally that it'll take you like 2, 3, 4 years to learn how to do. Like, he plays like a grown man at 18. You're like, huh? Like, where did what high school did he learn that at? Like, who is that coach? You know what I mean? Like, this kid was playing it on the AAU circuit 2 years ago. And you go, where did he learn how to play like that? So, Mo, sometimes you'll just see natural gifts that you'll see. I just happened to be watching the right game at the right moment and watch the right play to say, if he did it once, he probably can duplicate it. Now, Mo, you're watching him tonight. He had like 20 and 14 or 15 rebounds versus Bam Adebayo.
And his passing's come along as well nicely.
But that's what I'm saying. So, Mo, you're now I would love to take credit, but I'm telling you this. I don't like that kid. I love that kid. I think that kid, they say he's going, they say Dwight Howard. I'm just going to tell you what I saw and what I saw as a young 17, 18-year-old kid. I saw this young kid from Detroit, Michigan. His name is Chris Webber. Mm-hmm. Who is 17, 18 years of age, 19 years of age. And to me, it's a carbon copy.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
I saw Chris as a young kid, though. Mm-hmm. I saw him as a kid. And the first thing that you saw with Chris was you like his size and the way he played. You were like, okay, yeah, he can dunk. Yeah, he's got big hands. He's got all this. So he can catch the ball. But he does things like you just said something to me that just gave me like I get like goosebumps when you say things like this. You go, here's a big kid that's 18, 19 years of age, Mo, and you go, hey man, his passing has come along. How? He don't even know how to play yet. Why? How could he know how to pass as a power forward or center or whatever he is, 6'11"? How could he know how to pass, Mo, with only 30 games of collegiate? When you said that, Mo, I literally got chills. I was like, oh my gosh, you know who's a great passer in the NBA, Mo?
Chris Webber. Hey man, we see these things. This is the Hoop Genius podcast for a damn reason.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? When you said that, Mo, I got chills. I go, okay. No, everyone's saying Dwight Howard, and I get why you would say Dwight Howard. He's big, he's strong. But Dwight Howard couldn't pass like this. Dwight Howard played with physical ability. Like he was bigger, stronger. But this kid, he does things and you go, he should know how to do that already. Mm-hmm. He shouldn't know how to pass already. Mm-hmm. Mo, he's 19 years old. Mo, he's supposed to be playing in the NCAA tournament. We're supposed to be watching him now in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He's getting 20 points and 14 rebounds versus an NBA All-Star tonight. And the other guy he's playing against was Kevin Love. Okay? And he's just doing this, Mo, based on, hey, he's just kind of filling it out. So in 2 to 3 years from today, Mo, I'm going, okay, Chris Webber went to school for 2 years. This kid is playing in the NBA. And Chris Webber had a Hall of Fame career. And I'm just looking at it going, wow, he could be. That's all I'm saying. He could be.
Hey.
And you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, when you said it, Mo, it just kind of, I've never said that before, but I watched Chris Webber at Detroit Country Day High School. Same high school Shane Battier and these guys have gone to. And I remember Chris was a man at like 8th grade. Mm-hmm. He literally could play against the pros, all of us in like 8th grade. He was just, I didn't know how he knew how to do it. He just had a pro game.
Yeah.
Jaylen, this kid Duren, he just has a pro game. Yes, like, sir. I don't know how, Mo, I have no idea. I don't know but if you have an idea, let's call his coach or whoever taught him that. because, well, clearly it works.
Man, listen, some people just got a gift for it. But if you want to hear more about players and know who's going to be a superstar in the future, I suggest you subscribe to the podcast because we're going to be here rocking well into the future. So make sure you subscribe. BJ, I appreciate you as always for the insights. That's another episode wrapped up in the books, tied with a bow. So make sure you leave a little review for us. That would help us a lot. Helps us rise up the podcast rankings. Leave us 5 stars on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube. Leave a comment. Share with your friends. All that good stuff. And most importantly, get buckets.